You have to admire the ambition of an inner-city high school that calls itself Johnson College Prep, especially when a third of the students have no permanent home and many dodge violence just to get to class. But the students in this Chicago public school believe in their name. They've done the work. They've been accepted to college. Trouble is, few have the money to go. Johnson College Prep needed something like a miracle, and we were there when the miracle called Hope Chicago arrived.
The story will continue in a moment.
When would you have a slope of 0?
Johnson College Prep on Chicago's South Side embraces nearly 500 students.
Every student that walks in our door deserves an opportunity to be engaged by staff members who love them for no other reason except the fact that they are one of our students.
Principal Jonas Cleaves knows the names and the dreams in the halls of Johnson College Prep. College is your middle name.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we're here. We want kids to have a shot.
But on the South Side, a shot is hobbled by stumbling blocks and tall barriers on a narrow path to the dream. 1/3 of households here bring in less than $25,000 a year.
Right now, at least 40% of our senior class have identified either themselves or a very close relative being impacted by gun violence. Like, imagine the trauma associated with that.
You must worry about them when they're not under this roof.
It's a struggle. You know, when we go on, the Thanksgiving breaks or any holiday break, we get those calls when there's a student who has been shot or assaulted. We receive those calls from parents and students who need support financially with a major bill.
For a lot of your students, school is the safest, best part of the day.
It's a sanctuary.
And an inspiration.
I'm a Marine cadet. I'll be true to myself and others.
A Johnny Cunningham joined Marine Corps Junior ROTC to add some ammo to his many applications for financial aid.
Because I am in 1,000 programs all at once, including ROTC, debate, have honors in AP classes. I've taken college courses, so I'm just trying to do the most that I can to make college the least expensive.
Well, Father, we thank you for watching over all of us this morning, waking us up and clothing us all in our right mind.
Kavarion Newson's hopes lean on faith.
Amen.
Amen.
He told us that's how he endured being raised by his grandmother, who was drug addicted at the time.
I have so much faith in God. It's like, I'm not even gonna worry about money. Anything I've ever put in God's hands has never failed. So I know he'll come through. I know it for a fact.
We have students who are doing construction, working in warehouses, working the night shift, getting off at 6 a.m. and coming to school.
You got to admire the dedication and the character.
What could that kid do if given the chance?
We told the students we were writing a story about college ambition, which wasn't the whole truth. We knew what was about to happen because we'd met the man who would change their lives.
I'm a guy who got really lucky in life. I'm a guy who won a lot of lotteries. The birth lottery, the zip code lottery, the education lottery. And when I think about having won all those lotteries and all the people who are suffering, it's my chance to give them those same opportunities. That's who I am.
He is Pete Cadence, a Chicago millionaire who retired at the age of 40 after starting 5 companies, including one of the largest growers of cannabis. Sense of guilt?
Yes, 100%. I feel horribly guilty that I created this amount of wealth and that so many people are still suffering.
Suffering, in his view, because the richest country in history has not found a way to educate all its children.
I used to think that college and going to college was the great equalizer. In truth, what we've come to find out, college is the great stratifier in this country. It furthers the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Most people just don't realize that. And they don't realize how expensive it is for a minority student in a disinvested community. They don't just get a bunch of financial aid. And if they do, they come out with a boatload of debt, so they can't compete with their white suburban contemporaries, even after college. I just think that fundamentally, there's a misunderstanding in this country that college is accessible to everybody. And the fact is, no, it is not.
But it was about to be accessible at Johnson College Prep. When everyone's assembled and no one knows why, you're going to look across that room, and what are you going to see?
I'm going to see students and families who deserve this moment. You know, you asked me earlier about students that we've lost, and we often tell our families in those moments to like hang in there, you know, stay in the fight, don't give up. A better day is coming. This is their better day.
A Johnny Cunningham was there beside Kavarian Nielsen. They didn't know what the assembly was about or who Pete Cadens was.
Good afternoon, Johnson College Prep.
But they will never forget.
We're going to walk out of here forever changed today. And that is because if you were a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior at Johnson College Prep, your college tuition, your room and board, your books and fees will be paid for, you will go to college for free!
Free. Cadens charity, called Hope Chicago, will pay in-state tuition and expenses. An act of kindness so great, it had to be squeezed to fit within belief. That same week, Cadens made the same announcement at 4 additional Chicago high schools.
Look, we are operating in a city here in Chicago where the #1 cause of death for children under the age of 18 is gunshot wounds. No, we're not going to wait anymore. It's now or never.
How many tuitions in Chicago altogether?
We will end up funding about 30,000 individuals to go to college or trade school in the city of Chicago.
Over what period of time?
Over the next decade. That makes this the largest scholarship program in the country.
Kavarian Nielsen deeply appreciated Pete Cadens, but he told us he knew who he needed to thank.
Well, I didn't get to pray about the assembly yet because I'm still trying to process all of those feelings because of what just happened was, simply amazing. But God will get some special time for me tonight.
But in the assembly, there was more. Just when a better day couldn't be any better, Janice Jackson took the stage. The former CEO of Chicago Public Schools is the new head of Hope Chicago.
Pete left one important part out. Parents, guess what? You're going back to school too.
Hope Chicago is sending a parent or guardian from each family to college. For a Johnny Cunningham's mother, incomprehension was finally broken by the memories of her dreams deferred.
We have always had a too close relationship with poverty and lack.
Once homeless, Yolanda White, a single mother, cleared a path for 5 children, 2 through college already.
And I've taken all the hits, so now they can go and understand that I've been the shield and they can be free to do what they want to do with their lives.
Now it's her turn. She'd like to take technology classes to grow her baking business. Johnny, your mom's ferocious.
She's amazing.
The idea of parents and students going back to school together, I think that can be powerful and motivating in ways that we haven't even thought about.
Janice Jackson, the former head of Chicago schools, told us she decided to take Pete Cadens' offer to run Hope Chicago largely because of tuition for parents. What do you expect to happen from the fact that you're sending the parents to college?
I expect them to get better jobs, that they're going to be in a position to take care of their families. I was talking to one parent who told me she had 2 jobs. That is a barrier. So I think when you strengthen the family, you strengthen whole communities, and ultimately we're going to make our country stronger.
You're not trying to educate this young generation.
Yeah.
You're trying to fix the South Side of Chicago.
We have to catch up. That's the bottom line. And I may be biased, but I do believe education is the single most powerful way to disrupt generational poverty. It is. And for some of our parents, once they have children, they put their hopes and dreams on hold. And so this is an opportunity to get back in the game.
Of course, money isn't everything. Cadence told us counselors working with Hope Chicago will guide parents and students all the way to success.
These students need life skills training. They need mentorship. They need financial literacy. They need guidance counseling and curriculum advice. What Hope Chicago brings with our partner agencies is we wrap all those services around those students so they're not just stranded with a boatload of cash. They actually have people and teams around them to engage them so they can make it through college.
Poverty is intergenerational.
Hope Chicago is Pete Caden's second tuition charity. In 2020, he funded scholarships in Toledo, his hometown. Cadence has pledged $15 million to his scholarships. His Hope Chicago partner, Ted Koenig, kicked in $10 million. Corporations are also donating. Hope Chicago will cost $1 billion, which some call ambitious.
And when they say ambitious, they don't necessarily mean it in a positive way. They mean crazy. But here's what we know, Scott. If we educate our families, we'll resolve a lot of the violence issues. We'll start to put pharmacies and office buildings and grocery stores into these communities. And so, yeah, we may be crazy, but this is an economic development investment as much as it is an educational investment, and we have to do it.
So many people who have lived young lives like yours with all these obstacles are just casualties in America.
Right.
And I wonder why you're sitting here doing so well and going to college next.
Because I never gave up. It's like, okay, so you know how you can play basketball. Every shot that you shoot will not always go into the net. But I guarantee you, if you try over and over and over again to shoot that ball, one time it's gonna go into the net. So that's how I live my life, on trying this thing over and over again. Every day we wake up, we have new mercy and new grace.
Well, you drained a 3 during the assembly today.
I'm still processing those feelings. Today, I'll remember this day for the rest of my entire life. I'll never forget this day.
Grace and prosperity once raised monuments on the South Side. Now, even with so much forsaken, Pete Caden sees through the neglect to the vibrance still inside.
I think many communities around this country can have hope. Why can't there be Hope Peoria and Hope Indianapolis and Hope Charlotte? I'd love to see other philanthropists and other communities take up this endeavor and own it.
Calling all billionaires.
Calling all billionaires, calling all corporations. What we're doing here is action. We want our corporations, our foundations to join us in this action.
What is it like to be in college with a Hope Scholarship?
I love campus life.
Go to 60minutesovertime.com.